Awesome. Okay, so we are ready to start. Hey, SpiritualX, how's it going, man? Thank you so much for taking time for joining us, and really looking forward for this conversation. How should we call you throughout the spaces?
Hey guys, hey Flair Forward Show. Thanks so much for having me on. My name is on Twitter just Spiritual. My other accounts are Headline Hunter, so I kind of you can just call me Spiritual.
All right, you can call me Well.
Whale, got it.
Perfect.
I'll just be Steven. So I'll be the normal guy of the group. Gotta
Perfect,
have one of us around.
perfect, absolutely.
All right, Spiritual. So the first question that we do in this show is to ask for your origin story, like your why. Why do you keep up showing to this space day after day?
Um, so I'm gonna paint a visual for you. It's I don't know, maybe 3 months into COVID. We're 2020. I'm bored out of my mind, and I shoot a message to this guy I met in Dallas from Toronto. I just was wanted to follow up, say, "Hey, how's it going? What's up?" I think I hung out with him either on one night or maybe two. I don't remember. So I hit him up, and he starts telling me about XRP and how it's going to be this new reserve currency and it's going to explode in value. And, he kind of mentioned these, unusual Riddler accounts. And so that was the beginning of me getting introduced to XRP. And that individual I'm referring to, for those who are familiar, was Baba Cugs. I don't, do you guys know who that is or no?
Yeah, very controversial guy for sure.
Yeah, yeah. He's a character. He's a character. But yeah, so I started trying to understand because I don't come from a financial background. I mean, I know people who at that time who invested. I had relatives, family who had invested. Certainly not in cryptocurrencies, but I started learning all that I could. To determine if these claims could be true. And it was coming from someone from a kind of a family pretty into finance, so it wasn't just coming kind of from anybody. And so yeah, I started digging into things, and the rest is history. And then the Great Reset was announced, and I was like, oh my! And then just as developments continued, the more into it I got.
Yeah, so I have a similar story. Same a few months into COVID, this random guy that I kind of knew on Instagram started telling me about all these things, and beyond all the noise, there was something that clicked for me, and yeah, same. I created like this great passion for understanding and for learning more, and to get involved in this space because I see the future in where we're heading, and I want to be part of a potential change.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of fear in these communities, kind of focused on the idea of blockchain, DLT, currency reset. There's a lot of fear going around, but there's also a lot of great um, opportunity for the humans of the world, and the nations of the world to really improve the quality of life by enhancing the financial apparatus of the world, and just making it more inclusive, investing, and it'll be really great. The other day, Scott Bessent, the Treasury of the Trump administration, pointed out how there's a lot of people in crypto and coming into crypto that were not, not really investors. So it's attracting new investors, and it's more interesting than traditional finance, I would argue. So people are getting more and more people are getting passionate about it. And but yes, I agree that the most important thing is that it impacts the world in a positive way that will make the world a better place, I would say.
Correct. So yeah, if you guys haven't seen his documentary, it's very interesting. I actually just speed through it again at 2x, trying to write some questions for you. So we'll get into that. But I want to, there's two aspects that made me interested in this conversation. One is like get to understand where does that spirit come from? And that's what you've been sharing right now. But also the creative part, because I mean, I've been a content creator for the last 12, 13 years. And I understand the amount of work that it takes to put something together, like a 70-minute video of just pure information. I think that that's incredible. So that's also part of what I want to interview you and get to know you on that side as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It takes an immense amount of time, and that video, my documentary, the Trump Reset, which is part of my series, Great Reset Tales. It was really 4 and almost 5 years in the making. We'll call it 4 years, 2020 to 2024. All that perspective, and just those clips were from all over the place. 2020, 21, every single year between 2020 and 2025, actually, thus far. So yeah, I worked extremely hard on it. They're not easy to put together. And yeah, I appreciate you watching, and I'm super happy that you enjoyed.
Yeah, man, I've learned a lot. I've been following you for a while, and then a few days ago, Darren Moore shared your video, and I was like, yeah, that's the same video that I just watched on YouTube. So I started following you on X. So that's amazing. I really respect him as well as a researcher. He has incredible content. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Darren Moore's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. I would love to interview him one day. So, what's your vision for crypto? Like in 5 or 10 years, how do you see our life being affected by crypto, by the fourth industrial revolution that you speak about on your video?
Wow, yeah, great question and a large question. As I kind of hinted at or directed at in the video, I think 2025 is really a transformative year, in particular regarding cryptocurrency regulations and a much different attitude throughout the world regarding digital currency. 5 years out, we would be at 2030. By that time, uh, an immense amount of progress will have been made on a lot of changes and progress in general will have been made regarding the fourth industrial revolution. I think probably 2025 to 2028, institutions and various entities are going to put in a lot of effort to assist with onboarding new people into the crypto space. Technology is easier to make in a lot of cases than it is to onboard people. It's very difficult to onboard people to new, especially crypto is so complicated. Just in the sense of, okay, send it to this exchange and convert it to the Teller, then send it to that, and convert it to USDC, and there's just so many little complexities. It takes a lot of time to learn everything, and most people aren't willing to do that. So I think 2025 to 2028, it's going to be a lot of effort towards simplifying aspects of crypto, generating interest, and things like that. I mean, this year is going to be huge. I mean, I think we're going to see price action, possibly roughly in late quarter 3 and most likely in quarter 4. But I think next year, especially, is just going to be an outstanding year for everybody.
Amazing. Okay.
I can keep talking on that question for a while.
well,
I'm going to give the mic back to you.
So right now I wanted to do the first questions more about you as a creator, and then I have a few questions that I'm sure we'll go back into a lot of these topics. So
absolutely, man.
I wanted to ask you, like, what's your critical thinking? How do you discern how do you filter what's shit from like good information? Because there's so much information right now that it's almost impossible to make sense what's up and what's down. So how do you go about filtering that information?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good fundamental point. The baby boomers, many of them still believe that the mainstream media is honest reporting, but I think it's really been made clear. Even Tucker Carlson didn't realize this. I mean, he kind of had this, almost like a spiritual awakening last year when he realized how kind of fraudulent the mainstream media is. Basically, you have to have the fundamental understanding that the mainstream media is an agenda-based operation. They are the heads, the moving heads, or the people doing the legwork for very powerful people in the background. Because keep in mind, I mean, the highest level of power is not visible power. If you're in power visibly, with the exception of president or prime minister, if you are powerful visibly, you probably have a limited amount of power. The real power is the non-visible power that is kind of pulling the strings on the puppets, the puppeteers, the puppet masters. So you have to understand that. And so basically, when it comes to the mainstream media, you basically just have to narrow it down to the core piece of information, like what's the detail that they're highlighting, and then you have to kind of look into it or think on it further. I mean, it's good to find obviously multiple sources, but you have to be able to see through the propaganda, see through the attempt to basically assert mind control on citizens. I mean, that's really what the mainstream media is. It's one form of mind control is to limit somebody's awareness, and that's what the mainstream media does. It limits, it introduces a detail, but it limits the actual extent. And then it puts its spin on it, whatever the agenda at hand is. And then just looking into things after a while, every day is a page in the book that is history, and if you pay attention for a while closely, you'll start to see patterns, and you'll be able to have your own understanding of, oh, this just occurred. I think it's connected to something that occurred 4 days ago, or 1 year ago, or whatever it may be. But discernment, which is why you asked this question, has never been more important, because there really is an awareness gap in our society of people who, are either somewhat engaged with current events or even very engaged. But there's this awareness gap. The people who kind of understand how much bullshit there is, how much corruption there is, how much fabrication there is, versus the people who understand that to a lesser degree or not at all. It really the COVID offering that they offered, to put into arms, in the pharmacy and things, right? That should have been all anyone needed to really see. It was just so obvious that was a massive operation with many purposes behind it. But that really should have been that whole episode of that year of the media, and wear a mask, don't wear a mask, wear 5 masks, social distancing, or like just all these variety of things. It's really never been, due to the agendas currently on the planet, some of them, it's actually never been more important to be as aware as possible, and understanding that the mainstream news media is really not your ally, and it's somewhere to get information from, but you have to really be analytical, and keep in mind what the nature of what it is. It's never been more important to have that ability, because there's some agendas on the planet that want to do people harm, and things of that nature, and there will be more things like that. So back to you.
It was funny the other day. I mean, I've seen the memes of like, "Oh, that's not true." They would have said it in the news. And the other day, a person said that to me, and I almost like laughed in his face.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
So,
yeah,
I think question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm curious. Have you read The Power Broker about Robert Moses, the guy who built New York?
Wow, no, I have not read that book. Is it good?
Oh, it's good. When you talk about behind the scenes power, there's nothing like it. I mean, he literally built New York, like nothing. And he was supposed to just be the park guy, but he built everything in New York, and nothing got built in New York without him, for a long time, decades.
Wow, and it's called The Power Broker.
Yep, The Power Broker, Robert Moses, and the Fall of New York.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll look into that. I thought you were about to say like the 48 Laws of Power, like one of those books for a second.
Well, I read those too, but no, Hidden Power, when brought that book to my attention, I read it. It's a long Audible. It's like 66 hours, but it's an incredible read.
Wow, sounds like it. Wow. Yeah. But yeah, what else you want to touch on?
Yeah, so I would love to hear about your creative process. Like you find a video, you get some piece of information, some news, you store it, and then you how does it go from finding stuff online to actually putting a 70-minute documentary?
I think that the creative process is something that evolves over time. I think I've made a bunch of videos that I either posted for a day or two, or even in one case an hour, and then just chose to delete or unlist it for whatever reason. I'd say my creative process is still developing in the sense that I haven't optimized it yet, but basically, the running my headline hunter accounts are like extremely helpful, because I post highlights of U.S. news, that actually is kind of relevant. Not as much as I used to, but I still try to keep up with it. And then I have an international news account too. But so, I basically just have to look back at my Headline Hunter US account, and kind of just, that's how this video started. Actually, it started out as a video. I was going to do crypto highlights from November to March. And so I put a bunch of those screenshots into my movie editor. And then the video, it happens every time. Then the video evolved. I kind of, some other things come to my attention, whether it's, an older clip or a newer clip, and the video kind of evolves. But yeah, that video, like I said, was really about four years and change in the making. Some of those clips I have had for years, and some of them are newer. But it really just, as far as these kinds of videos, like a documentary on very macro ideas, the Great Reset, the idea of a financial reset, the idea of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and kind of different power forces at play. It just takes a lot of, honestly, focus on what's happening in order to connect the dots. And then just having the idea, like, what is my next video going to be? But like I said, in a lot of cases, the video you think you're making, or the painting that you think you're painting initially, is not the painting that you end up ultimately painting. As you put more and more together, you're like, oh, why would I do a video on this when I can do a much bigger video on this, and this as well? And I had to cut myself off at 71 minutes. I had a whole nother chapter planned, but I was just exhausted. Because like you said, I was working on it during my 9 to 5, every so often or whatever, kind of basically doing 2 jobs at once. I was working on it after my 9 to 5. I was working on it in Ubers, when I would take longer Ubers, just at all times. By the end of it, I was drained. I was like too isolated because I basically developed like 6 weeks or whatever it was to doing it and finishing it. And I'm very I get very into my videos, like a kind of a real artist, and like I basically can't do anything until I finish the video, especially this video and my crypto Riddlers video, because it just it kind of takes over your life in a bunch of ways. But yeah, so that's a rough description. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I always save videos whenever I see something on X. I always save it, but then they just leave on my phone, and if ever I have to find
Right,
something, I never
right.
can find it. So just like from a like me trying to think of how do I put all of those things, I wouldn't even know where to start, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of you think of a theme for the video, like there's always a theme, or kind of a series of themes. So you kind of you see the content you have, or you do some additional content, kind of searching. You look back at your bookmarks, your likes, or go to coin accounts like Coin Telegraph, and all these types of accounts like that to kind of look back at previous developments, or just paying attention to kind of what topics seem to be getting a lot of chatter on Twitter or X, of course, as it's called. And you just find a theme to do, and then you kind of work around that theme, I guess you could say, is the way I would describe it. That's definitely how I do it. I have a concept or a theme, and then I kind of just explore it. And it's amazing creating videos, or really any art or writing. Just the way the project grows, and it makes you have to research and hunt a lot of information or videos or insight. You learn a lot from making content, from making videos. You really, really do.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure like one rabbit hole leads you to the next one without even realizing.
100% correct. Yep,
Totally.
yep, 100% true.
All right, let's get a little bit in the meat of your documentary. So, like I said,
Yeah.
I rewatched it like an hour ago on 2X, and then I was taking notes of things that I wanted to discuss with you. So, my first question is: you say that Trump is doing his version of the Great Reset. How do you see XRP in this, as it's always been called the World Economic Forum coin? And like I feel like maybe at some point we got into XRP and we thought or figured that it was going to be part of that bigger plan, and now it seems like it's still part of the bigger plan, but with a different host. Or how do you see this going on?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And of course, is one of the questions asked in my documentary episode, as you said. Basically, we happen to have Trump in office during this period of time. We happen to have Mark Carney, now the Prime Minister of Canada. Um, I was working on this video and had Mark Carney clips already in there. But then when Mark Carney actually became elected prime minister, I had a moment of like shock, like kind of an adrenaline rush, because I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm working on this video right now. Well, when Mark Carney's about, just got elected. To me, that really was very, very indicative of kind of a very, planned ordeal having both Carney and Trump in office at the same time. For those who don't know, Mark Carney is the former governor of the Bank of England and the former governor of the Bank of Canada. So basically, what we're talking about is a central banker of sorts. Now the Prime Minister of Canada, when we happen to be having the birth of a brand new marketplace called cryptocurrency. And I say the birth because this market hasn't even started yet. It's not a regulated market. So 2025 is really the official beginning of the cryptocurrency market. But so we had these claims from Klaus Schwab, starting in 2020, roughly halfway through the year, saying, there's a need for a great reset. And, now the question is, well, Trump happens to be in office during, his first year of a second term. They're, very, very much prioritizing cryptocurrency regulations. And so that's just very interesting off the bat. And so the question is Trump kind of operating, kind of with the Great Reset Davos crowd? Or is Trump kind of carrying out his own version of a reset? And one of the points that I make in the video is that the fourth industrial revolution is happening. Fintech, biotechnology, AI, automation, all these and so many things. This is going to happen regardless of who is in charge, regardless who is the president of the United States. And so, it seems to me that this whole situation with the XRP journey and just following all this stuff so closely has really made it clear how deeply and long, how far advanced these big items are planned. I mean, they're planned so far in advance, especially something as important as a financial systems modification or a financial systems reset. It's really more of a modification and an update. But as far as the idea of a currency reset, it definitely is, a currency reset situation. But that's a whole other topic. But so, you really have to ask, wow, Trump happens to be in office. Kind of, we're halfway to 2030. We had that United Nations Agenda 2030 that's been around for a while. Then we had the Great Reset, which says 2030. And then, a lot of people talk about 2030, but we're halfway through this decade. And now Trump happens to basically be in power for the majority of the second half of this decade, possibly the entire decade and beyond, to get to second term. So, you really do have to. And then we have Elon Musk, his right hand man as well. Who people have? Was he a globalist? Is he not a globalist? He seems recently to certainly be very, patriotic for the USA and a real headache for the globalists. But it's still kind of up in the air because, like I say in the documentary, what people say they're doing in politics and so on, is not necessarily what they're doing, right? What these bankers say. For example, BlackRock, Larry Fink was saying for years they weren't accumulating crypto, and I guess we did find out that they had been or something, right? Or they wanted to keep the prices low. They weren't endorsing it, but now they are endorsing it at this point. So anyway, excuse me. So I don't like the political right. They would never really be willing to even be able to fathom the idea that Trump would be assisting, or selected as opposed to elected. In a sense, like Mark Carney, he was selected. He was not. He may have been legitimately elected for sure, but someone approached him a while ago and was like, "Can you try to run for? Can you run for PM in this year? We're asking you for XYZ reasons." To seal the deal on this. Trump's clearly in office to seal the deal on this financial reset situation and to really change the DNA of the United States. That's really clear. The United States has no choice but to make a lot of changes because mostly due to as far as technology goes, mostly due to AI, because previous industrial revolutions were created jobs, created just a better world. The AI component is really, at least initially, it's just as much of an economic nuclear bomb as it is kind of an asset or a benefit to humanity. It's going to kill most jobs over the course of time. It will be gradual, but ultimately, a large percentage of the population will not really work. But we're talking years out, like maybe 20 years or something, 15 years or beyond that. There simply will not be enough jobs for people. So the United States, with that being known, they're theoretically removing immigrants, even ones who have been here for 10, 20 years, theoretically, because they know, the United States, that they're going to have to basically take care of an amount of citizens like never before via universal basic income. So they know that, like, look, we can only afford the more people we have here, the more people we may have to give checks out to. So that's just a theory that I have. But yeah, I'll hand the mic back to you just if you have a follow-up question within that. I can basically go on and on talking about this kind of stuff. So I don't know if you have like a clarifying question or kind of a follow-up question on that, or.
Yeah, let's continue. I mean, I'm sure we'll circle back on these topics because they're all connected, and I think it's important to understand. Sure. Like, we're more on the tech. Like Stephen and me are more focused on the technical aspect of things, but I think that the macro is super important to understand because we are not.
Well, I guess I didn't fully answer your question then. As far as, I guess, part of your question was definitely, or maybe it was a previous question, where do you see the XRPL and XRP? Okay, personally, can I answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it, that the reset is going to happen regardless of who is in office, and I mean that would be the question or the answer that I got from what you were saying. But please go.
Well,
I
didn't really comment on the XRPL. Do you want me to comment on the XRPL, or do you want to ask me a different question?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I think there's very, very smart people on the planet, especially in our intelligence agencies, in our scientific programs, our technology programs. There's a lot of dumb people in the government. There's also a lot of smart people, and there's a lot of behind the scenes people we just don't know of who are very, very, very smart. And so they knew. The United States military, as I pointed out in the documentary, played a pretty big role in the development of the internet. And the Russian government apparently did too, for sure, and other forces. But so they've known, especially the finance people, they knew that eventually the internet would have an impact on the world of finance, the world of currency. It's just logic. So they knew that we need to get ahead of this. We need to make a very big plan, very comprehensive plan. And so basically, I think the NSA most likely created Bitcoin as, beta test coin, BTC. And basically the purpose of it is to generate interest among the public. I think they pumped it to, make all these people rich from it. So, other people would hear about it, like, oh, wow, they got rich from crypto. Like, what is crypto? This is incredible. Like, wow, wow, wow. But then ultimately, that was the beta test, just, the first round, never the serious project. I hope I'm not offending anybody. But I think they basically tasked one of their finest, David Schwartz, to work on a project that can help save the U.S. dollar and save the world. Really, the XRPL and XRP are going to help save the world as far as nation state relationships. The idea of a level playing field between nations, because. After World War II at Bretton Woods, they kind of concluded that one of the reasons why Hitler rose to power, one of a series of reasons, and why World War II happened in general, was due to the policies that were established by the United States to combat the Great Depression. So these intense policies had a, no pun intended, ripple effect throughout the world, and a lot of the other nations were put in a really bad financial situation. So they concluded that economic cooperation is really what's necessary to establish world peace. And so I think that's what the kind of NSA was a huge part of their mission. So, the U.S. dollar needs relief. That's a matter of national security. Without stable currency, you cannot have a stable society. And without a stable reserve currency, the world would be in chaos. So this is not just about, making payments faster and, tokenizing, car deeds, and tokenizing everything, right? It's about much more than that. It's about making sure the world stays stable and hopefully even more so stable. So I think XRP, who knows, David Schwartz, maybe he could still be working, for the NSA, or, the Ripple project could be kind of an NSA fueled project. You never know. Again, these intelligence officers, they say they're retired. It's like, okay, are they retired? Are they, my point is you just never know. I think the XRPL is going to be, the central system of the most prestige, you might say, like used by major institutions and nations and businesses. I think XRP is going to be worth a tremendous amount of money. I think it's much needed. And I think the institutions are this really truly smart money institutions are very, very excited. Larry Fink, I know from watching a ton of his videos, interviews for my own documentary, that he's pumped about these technologies with, currently with a focus on tokenization. And, the XRPL isn't necessarily the most advanced, blockchain or ledger, but it's been proven over the course of many years. It was created by a very credible individual with a credible background, that being NSA and whatever else. They put an all-star team together. I mean, Brad Garlinghouse as CEO, what a perfect character, so to speak, to be the face alongside David Schwartz and I guess Monica Long for Ripple. The lawsuit was certainly, in my opinion, a planned ordeal with the purpose of being the tank that kind of pushes forward the industry, does things that will result in legal clarity. For example, the currency versus security concept, I guess, versus commodity concept at this point as well. So something like this is not left a chance. There's a Riddler-esque quote. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Riddler situation at all, but there's this Kendra Hill mysterious blog years ago that made all these very interesting statements. Definitely very kind of in the know or smart person at least. And they say, those who fail to plan are planning to fail, and failure is not an option. And that's really true when it comes to the future of finance and the U.S. dollar is in critical condition. It's salvageable, but only with stable coins and blockchain technologies. They're going to use stable coins 100% to basically stabilize the U.S. dollar and other factors, of course, as well. But I mean, you can't back all the USD in circulation by gold unless you adjust the gold price like oddly high. Unless the only way to do it is through innovative technologies. You can certainly create a particular kind of USD with perhaps a particular amount, a smaller amount. You can gold back that by gold, maybe back XRP by gold. But yeah, the last thing I'll say is the powers that be around the planet, which is in agencies, governments, families, and individuals and companies. They want a more interoperable world, and they want a more convenient world when it comes to all things money. And so I think they're really excited for this stuff. But back to you.
Yeah, amazing.
Hey, before we get on to the next one, guys, I got to jump off in like the next couple minutes, so I did want to tell you, I really appreciate getting a chance to listen to everything you've got, and I will be following up on what I missed later on. So again, I just wanted to thank you for coming on board.
Absolutely, Stephen. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm still here. Don't, not going away. Still have some questions for you. Don't run away.
Oh, he was super excited about this one. He was telling me about it already, so he was super excited.
Yeah, we both were. Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so I'm glad because I feel like the questions that I have, the conversation has been naturally flowing into it. So my next question is, what are your thoughts on the role of the Riddlers?
Oh my gosh, it's such an awesome question. Okay, what a great question. I'm gonna have a ball answering this. The Riddler, I call it the Riddler campaign. It was one of the most, if not the most, well, I'll say this, one of the most brilliant marketing campaigns I've ever been made aware of. It was so unique. It was so brilliant in so many ways. And I do think, I mean, what kind of individual would be willing to do a campaign like that? Kind of arguably leaking, sensitive information, or arguably, manipulation of something or other. Just like, it's a legal risk. But so, I mean, I think one person who wouldn't be worried about that, or would kind of have the nod, okay, do it, would be, someone who's currently working for, a high up intelligence agency, or someone who perhaps used to work for a high up intelligence agency. Because I don't think most people would be willing to do that. So again, this is a matter of national security and international stability. They need people to really be, they need people to onboard into crypto. They needed people to onboard into XRP and to learn about it, because they're going to need people to endorse and educate the public on these things, because a lot of people are not going to be thrilled about the currency reset situation. A lot of people are very worried about too much control, like, with the CBDCs, too much perhaps visibility, or all these things, KYC, just people, so a lot of people who kind of don't know as much about it, especially who kind of have a rough idea of it, are going to be, are and will be very concerned. So you need a portion of the population who's going to say, no, 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 it's not this, it's that. Oh, no, no, you shouldn't look at it like that. You should look, this is really how to look at it. And not only that, they want to create a natural, or no, a neutral currency. And so they definitely, Ripple wanted to avoid, I think, perhaps getting like large investments from too many places. That might be incorrect, but like, I just always got the sense that part of the Riddler campaign was about like getting people to buy XRP. The way it was designed, it was basically, they basically created a timeline of like roughly maybe a year period. And so basically each year that, well, some of the riddles this apply, maybe all the riddles apply to this. They basically created a timeline of 1 year, but we didn't know which year would be the year. I mean, but this year is the year. I suspect everyone thinks, but for example, the riddle that included the phrase, April, May, June, July, watch closely, watch closely. Every single year we thought, since 2020, we thought, okay, that we got to watch April, May, June, July, right? Another interesting example is, the line, a time will come to reinvest, do it, do not wait. So with the line, that line is very actually manipulative, because it'll cause people to basically, in certain moments of a decrease in price, it'll cause people to buy more out of fear. So I think the Riddler campaign had a lot of purposes, increasing the awareness of Ripple XRP, getting people into it. I think they want to create a new wealth class, because again, like, if you're going to change a fundamental thing, especially money, like if there's no winners from it, besides, BlackRock or something, then like you're going to get a very, possibly angry public reaction. And as Catherine Austin Fitts says, it's a lot easier to kind of get the population to want something, or to desire something, like all the XRP holders desire, all of the crypto world desires, institutional adoption, stuff like that. It's easier to get people to want something than to force something down people's throats, quite frankly, especially in the United States, the nation that was founded by rebels, of the British Empire. I guess I don't want to say exactly who I think the Riddlers are. It's probably, maybe I've already hinted at it, I suppose. But I think everyone kind of has a pretty good general idea by now. But so again, it was a marketing campaign. It was a raising awareness. It was, generate curiosity. If you have these accounts that basically have proved especially over the course of time, that they are some kind of insider, some kind of crypto insider, and even higher. It's clearly higher than the crypto industry. I mean, these Riddlers told us about COVID-19 arguably before it happened. They literally they made a graphic, the Marvin Gaye, aka Ross Vandermeer graphic with Kim Jong Un and Trump and Putin on it, and then a prison cell and this big swamp monster and stuff like that. National emergencies is, I guess, what I'm referring to when I say they spoke about, and probably maybe more than I'm missing, but Baba always used to say, that they literally told us about that, and I interpret the same. So they kind of have validated themselves over time. So it creates stories are very helpful to selling products. Our mom and pop pizza shop, has been here since the Great Depression, and we have this story, and Robert De Niro has eaten here, and this happened. Stories sell. Especially freaking good stories. And the Ripple campaign is a great, great story. And it makes it more exciting, the whole thing. But ultimately, it was to raise awareness, generate interest, get more people to buy the coin, and most probably to create, a wealth class of really not a lot of people. No one knows about XRP. Like basically no one knows about it when you're talking about the general public. Go to a mall and say XRP to someone and see what they say back, or have you heard of XRP? Most people have no idea what it is. So there was a lot of fears about, that they would never, facilitate a new wealth class of, random, people. But I really don't think that's true. I think they need a new wealth class, especially one that understands these technologies, how to use them, and how to be part of the ecosystem. Because if you have this new technology and literally no one knows how to use it, and so how do you get people to learn how to use it and get interested? It's a financial incentive. The Riddler campaign provided a massive financial incentive with the idea of, phrases such as 4 digits overnight, and it'll be worth this and that because of this and that reason. So yeah, it was a brilliant, brilliant thing. And it was at times it was scary, at times it was fascinating, at times it caused paranoia. It caused some people to go crazy at various moments in time. It's crazy because a lot of ideas at play. So anyways, I'm going to hand the mic back to you.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think, at least in my case, the Riddlers were the thing that sparked my curiosity to learn and improve and grow and get involved. So I think that if when you put it like that, it totally makes sense. And I think ultimately, circling back to what you were saying at the beginning, I feel like right now there's going to be a wealth transfer between the people that are paying attention and the people that are not. And I think that the Riddlers might attract a lot of, it's like a shiny thing for a lot of people, but only the people that actually can see past that and start really understanding the tech and what's really happening are the people that will be able to take advantage of this transformation.
Might come up.
So then what's the role that you see for people like you and me in this transformation?
Well, I think we're pioneers in this space, alongside all the people we engage with on X. Accounts small and accounts big and accounts super large. We're just simply the pioneers of the space from an investor point of view. We're the ones that kind of had the the intellect and kind of the forward thinking to look into this stuff, to really recognize and identify that it was a space that was going places, that it wasn't going away. Reflecting upon the internet boom and how people thought the internet would be a fad, and kind of trying to understand, correlate or contrast the internet boom to this crypto boom that's shortly about to take place. But people like us, it's just to be participants in the space. Some people are going to make so much money, like large XRP holders and certainly holders of other assets, that they're going to be, market makers. They're going to be very, very powerful people if they choose to be. They'll certainly have enough money to do it. But kind of for your average holder who has a solid amount perhaps, but nothing that's going to make them an oligarch, it's just to be participants in the ecosystems at play, to help spread the word, and to benefit personally from everything, and benefit from our curiosity and our commitment to learning about all this stuff. Because like I said earlier, I mean, there's so many details at play just with one coin, let alone navigating all these different platforms, and just understanding the risk level, having the discernment, as you pointed out earlier, to understand what stuff means, what these developments mean, how to react, or how to how to respond, or not respond to some developments as they come out of the industry. Tether, a crap load of Tether was just printed. Well, what does that mean, right? There's so many little things that you need to learn. So I think we're going to be the handholders in some cases of the rest of the population, in ways small and big, whether it's conversations on the bus, conversations at dinner, or whether it's, small to large content creators, so because they need it to catch on, they need it to catch on. And they know they need to simplify all this as much as possible. And so we're really essentially helping with that, to simplify it, in our own ways, through our explanations or, specialty videos or discussions, because this is the new deal. The crypto is the new deal. It's not going away, and it cannot be rejected by the public. If it's rejected by the public, it would be a huge, huge problem. A huge, huge, huge problem. So introduce the idea of a moon date, and you hook in a lot of people, and then same thing with Bitcoin, right? The XRP community got this concept of a sudden day where the immense rise would occur in XRP. The same thing happened with Bitcoin. Essentially, they bought varying price, 50 cents, $1, $10, $20, and some people got very wealthy from it. All that good stuff. And so that was the first, right? That's what made it so the XRP community knew that something like that was possible. That kind of valuation was possible, right? So it's a step by step, highly planned, insanely organized, to the day, to the hour, plan, with a lot of people involved. Very sensitive plan. They asked Rosie Rios, I think 43rd or 45th or something, Treasurer of the United States. I guess 43rd or 42nd. They asked her really early on, can you get on board? Can you basically endorse Ripple by being on the board? Because that right away, it gave it legitimacy, it gave it credibility. So yeah, I'll hand the mic back to you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I took a XRP cap to a major airport in the States, and like nobody noticed. Like that was insane to like sometimes we fall into this echo chamber of X, and like most of the people that I talk to and engage know to some degree about XRP, but the world, has no idea. I like the idea what you said about the new wealthy class, and I don't know. At least I'm a dreamer, and in my world, I would love for that to be like a more educated, more conscious set of individuals that actually have the power. I mean, as a personal thing, at some point I wanted to make a change in the world, but I realized that if I don't have the power, which money translates to energy and power, I couldn't do anything.
Right.
So for me, this learning and this getting involved and educating and sharing and having these conversations that I know that for a lot of people are not the most interesting. They all just want to hear about the moon date. But I think that really understanding all of these concepts are essential to be able to make better decisions. I mean, I do a lot of Flare network, and I've been getting involved, and I've been testing, and I've been putting risking my own funds to do all of these things, and I see my fingerprint in the network. To a smaller or greater degree, it doesn't matter, but I mean that's incredible that I can have that opportunity. You asked me how I managed to get an interview with Hugo or with Crypto Area. I just went for it, and I think the concept of the level playing field, I think that in many, many, many levels that maybe we don't still understand, like that is applying. It's just allowing us a simple guy that likes crypto and whales to be able to interview a potential CEO for a potentially very big company in the near future. And I think that we do have the chance to make to leave a fingerprint and to make an impact in this space.
Change the world, right? I remember now. I got you.
Yeah. So just the idea that this is a technology that allows a smaller person to compete with much bigger entities, which maybe before was not possible.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I recently gathered that there was some confusion about what the level playing field means. And so, what do you think it means?
Well, I mean, at least
Not
what I
to
understand. Yeah, no, all good. I mean, at least from what I understand, for example, for XRP, specifically XRP, is that it because of if you remove the Nostro Bostro accounts and the limitation of having that capital locked to be able to do large or international transactions, with XRP, a small bank holding a reasonable amount of XRP would allow to compete with the big banks because they don't need all that pre-funding that is just locked away. So that's kind of like of course it's a much broader thing, but that's kind of how I understand the level playing field. It's just that opportunity that now just not the big players can play in the game, but everybody, if they have enough time, energy, and attention, they can participate. Or correct me if you think different.
Yeah, no, so I think that's true. I think the original idea and kind of central idea of the level playing field is between nations. The US dollar has been used as, in some cases, an economic weapon, like, for example, swift freezing a large amount of Russian money following the invasion, which may or may not be legitimate in action, but nations don't want that. Obviously, they don't want another nation to be able to basically have that power. And having having the reserve currency status is a massive, massive advantage, especially if you're also a military power. That's the only reason why we were able to remove it from gold with. Of course, a bunch of results or side effects, but we were able to do that and still kind of have an internationally used currency because we have the military power. So it's really kind of backed by the military, as a lot of people say, as opposed to gold. But the level playing field is literally an economic level playing field internationally between nations. No more, as Trump says in the final clip of my intro. A level playing field is the only way it's fair. Kind of no more currency fluctuations. I mean, and the inflation really screws over other nations. And so basically, the very smart people in charge came to the conclusion that no nation should have the reserve currency status anymore. And that's what Mark Carney talks about, as you know, because you watched the video, about a synthetic hegemonic currency, which means the United States dollar is the current hegemonic currency. And so this idea of a synthetic hegemonic currency is about the existence of a hegemonic like currency, like a very liquid, very strong, sound money currency, except not tied to any particular nation. And so this can lead. This could be a major factor in leading to world peace, with the exception of Iran and the Israeli Palestinian or Hamas conflict. Those are kind of wild cards. But other than that, like with China and Russia, this is really a path towards having better relations and more of an interoperable world. So yeah, that's what I think the level playing field is. But it certainly can be kind of and use the idea of a level playing field to understand even just cryptocurrency regulations, like Ripple having been on the surface treated unfairly by the SEC, while Ethereum and Bitcoin kind of got these free passes, as digital asset investor and people like to say. Like I said, after in Bretton Woods, they were reflecting, why did World War II happen? And obviously you had a dictator rise to power in Germany, but it really was also due to just poor economic conditions throughout Europe, and one nation's policies just having a terrible impact on other nations. I mean, when you think about it, that really kind of shouldn't necessarily be the case in a more perfect world. The nations of one action, the actions of one nation, shouldn't have the power to impact an African from in a poor town, or so. I don't know, who can't get enough dollars, or his dollar is this or worth that. I mean, just for other. I mean, the interviewer who interviewed Mark Carney in one of the clips I played in my video, he said that in a part that I didn't include in the video, that stock investors, Russian investors in Russian stock, Russians would have to. And this still applies for many nations in different ways. They have to pay attention to the United States, Federal Reserve policies and financial policies, and just the status of the United States dollar, and just all these things, in order to kind of determine what their own market will do. That's a lot of influence. So economic cooperation, that the idea they concluded at that Bretton Woods conference, economic cooperation and a higher degree of interoperability can lead to world peace. And that would be a huge accomplishment for humanity, a high level of world peace, with the exception of, the population perhaps fighting amongst themselves or whatever. It would be a huge deal for humanity. And, you plan for a guy like Donald Trump, and also like Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada, to be in positions of the top of the food chain of power, because their personalities, their strength, their kind of stone mentality, like you can't, sticks and stones may break his bones, but words will never hurt him, type of thing. You get a guy like Trump to really seal the deal with these immense changes, and to attempt to usher in the beginning of world peace, because he's willing to really play the game. He's willing to make difficult military decisions, and make maneuvers that maybe other presidents, for whatever reason, wouldn't be willing to do. He's trying to achieve peace with Russia by putting the Ukraine conflict to rest. They even had a phone call today, Putin and Trump. The previous administrations, the quote unquote deep state, they really, from what I can tell, they never really treated Putin fairly. They never really gave Russia fair media coverage for decades now, or possibly in all decades. And so we can all be friends now. We're all grown up now. We can talk. The technologies have made us more intelligent, more grown up. We can communicate more, like on Zoom and stuff. There's no reason for humans to be fighting each other. The only reason for it is corruption or ideology. And so I think, your generation, my generation, and the generation after will actually accomplish world peace, which right now seems really unrealistic. But I do think it will happen, and I think it has to happen because we'll destroy ourselves through fighting each other, and mistakes. Nuclear weapons have almost accidentally gone off. Viruses have leaked from labs. All these kinds of things. So, anyways, I will hand the mic back to you, sir. No, it's okay.
No, yeah. So, I mean, right now we trade cryptos like securities. And if our argument is that cryptos are not securities, like, how do you see that unfolding in the next 5 years?
Okay. Similar to the internet boom, the companies that have the most relevant utilities or services that they offer will be the ones that survive in the biggest, most successful of ways. And so there will be a limit to that. And it's some will be used as actual currencies, even in retail stores, perhaps. Really XLM comes to mind a lot, but others as well. But groups of people will start, culture is going to change when it comes to money. I really do think that communities will form like in a very interesting way that kind of is reminiscent of communities in the past, kind of almost like villages of kind of like-minded people. That's going to become a thing again because it's become clear how detrimental a lack of community can be on the youth, and the technology has really isolated the youth, especially the recent youth. The people now who are 15 years old, they never were alive in the pre-internet world. So as new interesting things such as kind of communities of like-minded individuals emerge, there's just going to be new ways of doing things. So they could create their own meme coin. For example, they could use their own currency, similar to how it was actually done in the kind of pre-revolutionary American Revolutionary War times, kind of banks having their own currencies, and little villages in some cases having their own currencies. So it's going to make the world more diverse, more inclusive, and more dynamic, just with so many options. But I think a lot about crypto will stay the same as far as how we can acquire these things. I mean, the idea of currency has totally changed. When would you ever have a $100,000 bill or something? You would never have a $90,000 bill like we have a 90, whatever Bitcoin is at, 85, 80,000. I mean, that's not even that, years and years ago, that would be like a ludicrous idea or statement. But now we have that, and, could be Bitcoin is kind of old school to put it nicely. So, I mean, I don't know how many people will be using that as a currency, but yeah, we'll have to see. Regulations will happen by Q3, Q4. The people who are in the space now will be the highest beneficiaries. They were the people willing to take the highest amount of risk in a non-regulated market. They were the speculators. No one in the future will be as much of speculators as the original OG crypto crowd has done. Whether it's from the early Bitcoin days or whether it's from 2020 to 2025, it's really all been speculation of developments and details of the technology. So the people after regulations and new people coming will have it much easier, but their reward will be lower because there will be a lower level of risk. Many assets, the best assets, quite frankly, will have already gone up. They're going to go up, I think, quite quickly after regulations, even shortly before regulations. But I think they had to, and I'll wrap up with this on this question. I mean, they had to do this over a long period of time. There's one interesting Riddler line that, there's a reason why, you've heard a similar message from various sources at various times. Something like everything, I like to say everything in space time takes time, right? And so we're on Earth, we're in space time. And so this was something that could not be rushed for many reasons, including kind of validating the tech, all the way to onboarding people, all the way to avoiding the appearance of a financial coup d'etat, which is actually how Catherine Austin Fitts, who's in many parts of my recent documentary, The Trump Reset. Oh crap! I just lost my train of thought. But Well, that's how she refers to it. Catherine Austin Fitts. She refers to what's happening as a financial coup d'état. She says the financial coup started in, I think, 1999 or the 90s, and it's much beyond crypto. It's a large topic, but so they can't have the appearance of financial coup d'état of, because keep in mind, particular administrations will be in power when this occurs. So I mean, someone as exotic as Trump, being in office, like, already being accused of becoming a dictator or trying to take over all these things by mostly kind of the far left or what have you. You can't have a situation where you change the financial system and it's being reported on as a financial coup. That would be really bad, and that can start a civil war. If there's not a good portion of the U.S. population who can vouch for the situation, right? And that's why you create the Riddler campaign, and that's why you get people rich from Bitcoin originally, and that's why you're about to get people wealthy from XRP. There has to be beneficiaries, normal people, who can be cited and who can vouch for everything and who can endorse everything. So it had to be done over a long period of time. And there's a lot much even after regulations. There's a lot of work to be done between companies creating their own technologies, banks further developing their patents, and laws being made by nations, other poorer nations, getting their populations onboarded, which I suspect the United States will help with. So anyways, yeah, I could go on and on about all this stuff. So back to you.
No, that was amazing. Thank you so much for your insights. I think I
Absolutely.
really appreciate your objective view of things. So I really appreciate
Right.
that you are positive and that you have a forward viewing of the world. And I think that that's important to have both the knowledge but
Yeah.
also the vision. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think great times will come. I think a golden age will kind of emerge, but there'll be more bumpiness along the way because there's just previous historic conflicts, such as the Israeli-Hamas, Palestinian deal, that still have to be ironed out. There's just liabilities from the past, contention between power brokers, contention between political factions, contention between business leaders, oligarchs, just all past stuff. But I think this reset will really help a lot of people just kind of have a new state of mind that we're, because the facts are we are going into a new age. And this new age is unlike any other age in the past. For example, first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, or even hundreds and hundreds of years ago. The Earth has never seen anything like what is taking form. And so the results for Earth will be, results that Earth has never seen before, which I hope includes world peace. Absolutely. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. One of the books that really got me going and motivated to like keep learning and upgrading myself and not be fearful was The Changing World Order by Ray Dalio. I don't know if you read that.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
book, I actually want to read it again because when I
Mm.
read it, he hasn't actually published it. I was reading each chapter as he was releasing it on his website, and I think that it's
Mm.
such a great insight in everything that is happening right now. That just makes like if you zoom out, like everything is going to be fine.
Right.
It's just that right now we have to go through some turbulence. But yeah, that was a big motivation for me to show up and learn and yeah, upgrade my operating system every day.
Yeah. No, Ray Dalio is a, perhaps a godsend. I think he's putting in effort to educate the masses, and doing his best to help perhaps maintain the peace and just to give people a heads up. I loved his um, Changing World Order YouTube videos. Admittedly, those are the only. I have not read the book, but that's a good suggestion actually.
Yeah, I mean, it goes much in
He's
hand
great.
with what you said in your documentary. Like, and
Yeah.
I think that one of the craziest things has been
Oh, I should have used a clip from that. Dang it.
um, yeah, one of the things that hold on, I lost the train of thought.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the craziest things with the Riddlers and a lot of the things that people have been calling like the XRP community, they have been calling us crazy for such a long time, and then to see things unfold as they are, it's just
Hmm.
like to some degree eerie of how accurate and how
Hmm.
yeah how things have been evolving. It's pretty fascinating to observe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. I mean, I have speculated that one purpose of the Riddler campaign, as I call it, was to actually get civilians in sync, so to speak, meaning like really convey how really important things are very much planned, very much in advance. And the politicians, the bankers, the influencers, even kind of thinking along the lines of like an Elon Musk, kind of promoting space travel and stuff. They're the people who make the plans happen, presidents. But I think it's good for the population to understand that important things are planned, because it's things aren't necessarily a conspiracy or what have you, like a negative connotation. Some things are planned because they're very important and that they need to go smoothly. And so, sometimes you need to sue. I mean, a lot of these cases with lawsuits, like with the SEC and technology, it's kind of positive results for like industries or technologies. Laws, progressive or developmental or fundamental laws are made kind of as a result of these lawsuits. So yeah, this couldn't be left to chance. There's definitely an intelligence presence, or a component to this financial plan, because it's so important. I mean, they had to go to nations. Like when you think about the Marvin Gaye graphic, for example, where you have like President Trump and Putin and Kim Jong Un and whoever else kind of shaking hands, agreeing on a new hegemonic currency or hegemonic commodity, XRP. Yeah, someone had to go to these nations and basically say, hey, we have this idea. Like literally, what year am I talking about? I mean, maybe 2005, 2010, maybe as late as 2012, which would be very interesting because that's that apocalyptic year. So, the Egyptians or whoever thought the current
The
like
Mayans.
age would end. Yeah, the Mayans. Some people thought it was the end of the calendar. Other people thought it was kind of like marking the end of an age, perhaps, which certainly that's what it seems to be at this point in retrospect. But someone had to go to nations and say, we have this idea, this technology can help, with XYZ financial aspects of the system, and kind of the, unfair, not non or unlevel aspects of the financial system, the aspects of the US dollar supremacy. And basically they had to tell these nations, if you come on board with this, the results will be favorable for your nation. And a lot of the issues you guys have possibly given each nation, these issues will be done, because the United States agrees the changes do need to be made, and the U.S. dollar, the big changes need to be made in order to save the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is not going anywhere, as I argue in the video. That was unclear in previous years with XRP, but there needs to be a nation state trusted currency. It can't be China, it can't be Russia, it can't be India. I guess it could be Canada, but I don't know, maybe not. So no one else can do it. I mean, that's what a lot of very smart minds have claimed. No one else can at this point have the most trusted nation state currency. So it will remain the United States as that status, but there will be another, again, a currency, a commodity, a hybrid. I don't know, right? New definitions, will be made, right? Like I've said, but so I think, again, going back to the original point, it's good, I think, for the population to understand that things, they're not playing it by ear every day, right? They're not playing it by ear every year. These things are planned, and that's not a bad thing. That means that they care, certainly in some cases. People kind of who don't think really deeply would look at him and say he just cares about the United States. He doesn't. He only wants a strong United States. He doesn't care about the rest of the world. He's too smart not to care about the rest of the world. Because it's the same thing about caring about your own people. If you are the leader or the oligarch or the king or the president of a nation or a kingdom, and your people are not sufficiently taken care of, or sufficient markets in place, sufficient opportunities to make money, feed their families, if that's not at play, your power is very much in jeopardy and you're personally threatened. And so Trump knows that getting along well with other nations is beneficial for the United States. He wants that. He really does, and he cares about the United States, and he definitely cares about other nations. Not as much about as he cares about the United States, but he understands that a healthy world is a healthy United States, and so that's what's going on. We're slowly moving into a healthier world on multiple levels, and we've lived through the growing pains period of new ideas, good and bad ideas, new technologies, really arguably good and bad technologies, kind of with a reference to AI. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I do believe what you said about Trump trying to do like his legacy to be something that he could have done. I do believe that, and I think that that's a argument in all of our favor, because like I think that for him that's the most important thing, and he's willing to do whatever he needs to do to try it. Man, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate. We're closing in into an hour and a half. I mean, I'm sure we could continue going for hours.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I have a lot to digest. I feel like I'll have to listen to this a few more times to process all the information that you just gave us. Do you want to close up with something?
Truth Crumbs is my personal Twitter account, and then I have the two news accounts, which is Headline Hunter _US and then Headline Hunter _global. I will be trying to get out as much as 3 to 6 videos a year at this point, because they're not going to be like kind of quick videos. They'll be more, very much documentary style videos. I'm really not doing it to make money. I'm doing it because I love following all the developments and the creative process of making videos. And I really just, the best part is just hearing that people enjoyed it and that they got something out of it, and all that good stuff. And I've never had a better response to any video compared to this one. My second most popular episode is the Crypto Riddlers episode, which kind of tells the story of the whole Riddler phenomenon. But hey, man, other than that, I was super honored to be invited to be interviewed on the Flare Forward show. Listeners should be sure to check out their episode with Crypto Erie, as well as Hugo Pavilion, the what is he? I don't know, CEO or president of Flare Networks.
CEO of Flare, yeah.
Yeah, man. And hey, if you ever want to talk again, just let me know. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I would love to. I mean, there's a very thin line between like long content and this short attention span of people. So I feel like this is already a lot of information, and I would love to in the future pick up your head again. And I'm sure in 6 months there's going to be a completely new world, and we'll have a ton of other things to talk about. But no, I really appreciate you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of respect for you, man, both as a creator, as a researcher, and in everything. And like I said, I really appreciate that you have a positive view for the world. I also think that the future looks bright, and that depends on us to make it bright, like for each other. It is not so much waiting and sitting down and waiting for somebody else to do it for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Life is definitely what we make it. And it's all about action, really.